Um, Essentially, our director John was working for a magazine, was running a magazine called Sleaze Nation in the end of the 90s, and during that time, the magazine was looking at youth culture movements, looking at scenes, and sort of in a way chronicling, but by accident, like these youth culture movements that were really important. And at the time, they were always looking for images of like certain subcultures, like punks or skins or rave, and they were finding the photography that they were looking for wasn't there. It was just like it was taking a lot of research and a lot of time to find it. So John began with his team a sort of a process of sort of finding photographers, finding people that had documented the scenes, and then bringing them all together. So in a way, the museum was already in its early stages back in 1997, if you think about it.
This is a really interesting history and a story, and it's at risk of being lost because these photographers aren't being recognized by traditional institutions, traditional museums, and those collections aren't being seen. And he really came from that angle of like, this is a story that's really, really important. And I think that underlying current has kind of pushed the idea forward, and it was just almost wait for the right time. Our two latest grants are all about engaging with people and this idea of building a museum from the ground up, and this idea that everyone's been young, so everyone can be part of the museum. And I think that shift in terms of collaborating with other organizations, youth groups, and heritage organizations, but also just working with the general public and getting them not just to back the museum, but to be part of the museum, I think has really helped us grow as an organization. And having those people on board that love what we do and promote what we do and have an image in the archive that they can proudly show to people, like that groundswell, I think has really helped us grow in a way that we hadn't been able to do before, but also to grow our name outside of London, because we've always been London based. So I think it becomes quite easy to be in your little London bubble, but having a campaign like Grown Up in Britain, really trying to work with youth groups and community organizations and individual people has enabled us to grow and get our name out there in a way that we hadn't really been able to do before that. And I think it's made the museum much more recognizable, and got us quite far in a way that we hadn't really before.
Almost become like a conduit. You almost become like an aggregator of the community, and then that is the museum in a sense. In a sense, whereas like traditionally, there's an idea that you have this big collection, and that's what you work from. But we've been very much more like a sort of a network of inviting people to join us on that road. Um, I think one of the things would be from a very simple level would be just really ensure that your funding model is there and that you've got a good strategy that involves both public funding and also, if possible, some kind of commercial avenue as well that you can go down. Because one of the things that's kept us afloat, and I don't think we'd be anywhere near where we are now, sort of 50% of our income comes from external sources, and the 50% comes from Heritage Lottery. That obviously that changes depending on where you are and what time of year it is and things like that. But things like actually working out events and realizing that you could like make some money behind the bar. You can put on free events, but you can just make some money on the drinks, and all those little things start to add up and make you realize that you can do a lot more than you think you can with the limited funds that you have available. One from my personal experience is I know that John always wanted to work with young people and a charitable element to the work we do, and obviously that I thought that was admirable, and I think that's that museums have to do that, but I just couldn't see it working until we tried it. And I think that's something maybe other museums could maybe learn from as well, is like if you're working with a subject matter that doesn't necessarily have a direct link to workshops or well-being in a way that you can see yet, if you start to work with a charity, like Lisa says, like another organization that does do that does work with the arts or work with interpreting history, then they might teach you how to do that. And I think we found like one of the things that's been most I guess rewarding is seeing like people that are in pupil referral units and aren't able to or struggle to get through their GCSEs will come out with coursework after spending half a day with us, because we've been printing out images, showing them how to comp images over the top of each other, take photographs of themselves, and realize that they are youth culture as well. And it took a lottery project where we promised to do that to convince me that it could be done longer term. And ever since, we've had youth work going on.
not just why are you doing this and building this museum, but who are the people you want to inspire with it, or who do you want it to reach? Because I think it has an influence on how you put out content and stories, and how you collect stories and how you make them relevant, but also the message you want to put out. Um, so yeah, I think it's just an interesting thing to think about as you're developing your idea.